What's up, folks? Today I'm going to be giving you a step-by-step guide on how you can get a very cinematic look by editing in Lightroom. Let's get into it. Okay, so this is part 2 in my cinematic photo sequence. In part 1, I showed you what a cinematic photo is and how to go about getting it in camera, how to go about shooting it in the first place. In this part, however, we're diving right into Lightroom. I'm showing you every single tweak, every single adjustment that I make so that you can make cinematic photos as well. I will tell you this though, the last tip, I've got a very spicy little tip, an extra little nugget there for you in the end, so you definitely want to stick around for that. Let's jump right into the tips, no wasting any time. All right, so tip number 1, you want to be selecting the right photo for your cinematic edit in the first place. If you take every single tip that I give you today and you apply them, all the tweaks, all the edits, and you apply them to a photo that's not cinematic in the first place, you're not gonna get the right results. So taking a cinematic photo in the first place is your priority. What you want is shallow depth of field. You want to shoot in blue hour. You want to shoot in low light conditions. You want that very cinematic feel. I don't want to say anything, but you might want to click that thing on the top right. It'll show you exactly how you go about taking a cinematic photo, and this will go miles. Even before you get into Lightroom, you're already miles ahead of the competition. You're already creating that cinematic photo. So okay, we got that down. We got the cinematic photo. Let's get into tip number 2. All right, so this is the photo we're gonna be editing today. The very first move that I'm gonna make, obviously after making those tiny little basic adjustments, is to dial back the clarity just a little bit. You see the film and the cinema that we draw inspiration from for this cinematic edits are usually shot on old lenses with old cameras with very old film. As you can imagine, the images that come out of these cameras aren't as sharp as the digital cameras that we use today. So just dialing back that clarity just a little bit will help you get a little bit closer to emulating the cinema, to getting close to making a cinematic edit. All right, so tip number 3, we gotta hit them with that S-curve, baby. We're gonna go to the tone curve panel here, create 3 control points by holding down Shift and Option, clicking, and clicking. I'm gonna take the black points down here, drag them up just a tad, but I'm gonna compensate by dragging the shadows down. I'm gonna take the pure white points at the top here and drag them down just a tad, but then compensate by bringing the highlights up just a little bit. Now the reason why we're doing this is to emulate the fade pattern in cinema, and the tone curve usually looks like this. We're dragging up the blacks just to create a little bit of fade and bringing down the highlights just to create that fade as well, but we're losing contrast in the middle, so we're gonna drag down the shadows and bring up the highlights so you have a contrasty image but that is still faded on the end. It's really beautiful. We're gonna completely ignore the RGB curves here because everyone knows if you try to touch those, your computer will explode. I don't know what to do there. We're just gonna ignore that and move on to the next tip, tip number 4, that teal and yellow edit in the HSL panel, baby. Let's go. Now, if you've seen any cinematic poster in the last 5 years, you can see that they are usually comprised of 2 primary colors, teal and orange. Look at this, G.I. Joe, teal down here, orange in the top. Fantastic Four, teal in the top, orange flowing through. Flight Plan, teal and orange. Born Identity, teal and orange. Eagle Eye, teal and orange. For some reason, we as a community and as filmmakers are obsessed with teal and orange. It's for a reason, because they go so nicely together. They're very complementary colors, and as you can see, skin is usually orangey, and you can create very nice blue lights in the back that'll give you a very tealy vibe that'll go so perfectly together. So that's what we're gonna try and emulate in the HSL panel. All right, so open up HSL, you see the red values here. I'm gonna drag it just a little bit towards orange. I'll drag the yellows towards orange, however. The greens in the image, I'll drag them just a tad towards blue, towards teal. The aqua, I'll drag them towards teal as well. And the blue, I'll drag it left towards teal a little bit as well. The purple here, I'll drag it towards blue. And I think I'll leave magenta as is. So what we're doing is I'm trying to push all the factors, all the color factors in the image towards that teal and that orange, so we can truly harp on that complementary scheme that you see in a lot of cinema. To further help with this teal and orange grade that we already got going on here, I'm gonna go into my color grading section, click the blue in the shadows just a little bit, just to give the shadows a little bit of a blue tint, and then click yellow in the highlights just to also give the warms a little warm tint. I'm gonna click up here and fine tune the colors just a tad, maybe bump down the saturation a little bit, maybe bump down the hue a little bit to fine tune the colors, and then come into the highlights here, fine tune that as well. You can see the color that you're getting, that you're injecting into the highlights down here. Look at that, that's perfect. Click that on and off and you can see the effect that that's having on the photo. Very beautiful. All right, so before we move on to the next tip, I want you to go down there and don't even think about it, just hit the like button. It helps me, it helps notify the algorithm that I'm doing a good job. So if I'm doing a good job, please hit the like button. Thank you so much. Let's move on to the next tip. Tip number 5, finagling with the color calibration. Now, for the first 3 or 4 years of my career, I didn't even touch the color calibration dial. I didn't know what it did, and I was confused about it, kind of like the RGB values and the tone curve, you know what I'm saying? But it's so powerful down there. You'll be surprised with how much of a little tweak in the color calibration dials that you can get in order to get a very, very cinematic edit. I suggest finagling the dials to the end. So what I usually do is I slide the values to the end and see the effects that they're having on each photo, and then slowly make that adjustment in the direction that I want to go. That helps me to know what the effect I'm having on each photo is. So go down here into red primary, slide it to the left, slide it to the right. As you can see, I think I prefer it in the right direction a little bit. So I'll make that tiny little minor adjustment, just a tad. Come down into saturation, slide to the left, slide to the right. I think I like it to the right just a little bit, so I'll undo that, come back to the middle and start to make that adjustment a little bit. Make that change in green and in blue as well. And then when you start to click that on and off, you can see the effects that you've had on the edit. You'll be surprised at how much more you can get closer to the cinematic edit. All right, so that's all the juice that we need. The last and final tip, that little bonus tip that you've been waiting for, is grain, baby. Grain. Grain, nice little grain. Add more grain, more grain, grain, grain. I love. I'm a little bit obsessed with grain. Now you might be getting disappointed, like, Karl, come on, is this the tip? Is that the bonus tip? I'm not just talking about grain, but I'm also talking about dust and scratches and hair and tiny little features that you can add to your photo to give your photos more dimension. Let's do it. Now I will say this: you have to be working in Photoshop to add this certain level of grain and dust that I'm showing you here. And I know a lot of photographers are also very, very, very intimidated by Photoshop if they spend most of their time on Lightroom. This is just like a drag and drop thing. You know, it won't waste any of your time. You'll be having a good time. I promise. This is as quick as possible. Let's show you how to do this. Now the reason we're doing this is because a lot of cinema is actually shot on actual film, as you can tell. Hair and little imperfections and dust sometimes gets on the film when it's being developed or even when it's being projected, and you can start to see little fine lines and these little qualities that help to give the film, give the image that you see on screen a very nostalgic effect. That's kind of what we want to emulate in our photos, so we're going to try and recreate that on the computer here. I have my little folder of dust and scratch goodies here, and this is what I use to kind of give my photos a very grainy and dusty vibe. I want to show you a couple of examples here. There's this one, and this one, and this one that we're editing now, for example. It has a completely different dimension with the dust and the scratches that we've added on top. I'm going to show you exactly how to do this. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to add a little bit of grain here in Lightroom. I'm going to drag the grain amount up a little bit, adjust the size a little bit, and then mess with the roughness, see what I like. You might want to click in and see actually what that change is making. Once that's done, hit Command E, and it's going to open up Photoshop if you have Photoshop installed. Again, don't be scared. This is going to be just a drag and drop thing. You'll be surprised with how nice this is going to get you. Now I have my little folder of dust and scratch goodies here that I bought from some lady on Etsy. Yes, Etsy. If you go to Etsy.com, for example, and you put dust overlay, look at this. There's so many options of, you know, beautiful overlays that can help give your images more nice textures, and they come at very cheap prices. So I usually just add to basket and just download them and add them to this folder that I have of dust scratches here. So you can take any of them. I'll take this one, for example, drag them and then drop them onto our image, scale it and adjust it just so it can fit the whole image, change the blend mode to screen, and voila, a beautifully grainy and dusty image. Now obviously you might want to adjust the opacity of that grain thing just a little bit, but that's basically all you need. You know, hit Control S, save that, and it's gonna pop right back into Lightroom just like that. Very easy. I told you, not intimidating at all. And obviously let's take a look at the before and after. So we have this is the before, You know, already a nice image because we shot it cinematically. And then look at this after. Beautiful teal and orange edit, has very, very nice tones to it. It has that nice little fade effect. And obviously as well, it has that beautiful layer of dust and scratch and grain that helps to give that photo a lot more dimension. Baby, we love this, we love this. Okay, I hope that little extra tip was useful for you there. Okay, so if you've enjoyed this, I make weekly videos of my adventures to very unique locations, or videos on how I create my videos and my photos that go with those adventures. So please subscribe. That's kind of what you're going to be getting. Thank you so much for watching. If you've learned something, please like this, send it to a friend, get them all wised up as well. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.